Hello everyone, my name is Sairaj Kishore and I would be presenting our work, an end-to-end framework for pose estimation of occluded pedestrians. This is a joint work with Sudeep Das and Professor Ujjwal Bhattacharya from Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata. Before I begin, I would like to address two basic queries one would have regarding human pose estimation. First, what is human pose estimation? It is a procedure to predict the locations of limb articulation or estimating the key body points of the human figures as shown in the figure. And second, why is it so important? The most important thing is it helps to identify a person more accurately. As shown in the image, a bounding box only helps to localize the person as a whole, but pose estimation allows us to localize the individual parts of the body. Next, it allows us to gather information regarding the instantaneous behavior or activity of the person. And finally, it comes with several crucial applications, such as in autonomous vehicles, robotics, augmented reality, video surveillance, etc. However, occlusion has been a major challenge for pose estimation. It is an inevitable phenomenon that hinders the performance of the task. Occlusion opens up two research avenues in the field of pose estimation. First is estimating the pose in occlusion scenarios. In such cases, people are occluded by other humans or objects and the entire human may not be visible for pose estimation. The difficulty here is we have to estimate the pose for the visible parts only using the context from the observable portion of the human figure. Another difficulty is in situations of person-to-person occlusions, where we have to correctly associate the key points to the right person and group them accordingly. Second research avenue that occlusion opens up in pose estimation is estimating the pose of the occluded portion of the human figure along with that of the visible portion. In addition to the challenges posed for the previous task, which also apply for this, we here have to estimate the pose of the occluded region of the person as well. Furthermore, most of the existing works have only explored the first problem. To the best of our knowledge, there is only one previous work that has explored pose estimation for occluded regions of humans. In this work, we pursue the second avenue posed above and propose an end-to-end approach to estimate the entire pose of an occluded pedestrian. There are two major challenges to full body pose estimation of occluded pedestrians. First, none of the existing pedestrian datasets include pose annotation. And second, none of the existing pose estimation datasets include annotation for the occluded regions. Before we move on to the proposed approach, I would like to give a brief overview of a closely related work to ours, that is ClueNet. ClueNet is one of the first works to address the problem of full body pose estimation of occluded pedestrians. It uses domain adaptation to predict the pose of the pedestrians from the prediction knowledge gained from the pose estimation dataset. It also proposes a mask and predict strategy to learn to predict the pose of the occluded regions of the human figures. ClueNet is a two-stage framework. The first stage performs person detection and semantic segmentation for the human figures from the pedestrian dataset. The second stage performs pose estimation on the person crops generated from the first stage. The figure here shows the network of the first stage of ClueNet. The first stage is a multitask network that consists of common encoder followed by segmentation and detection streams. The segmentation stream segments the visible parts and the detection stream predicts a bounding box enclosing the visible and occluded regions for each pedestrian. The figure here shows the network for the second stage of ClueNet. The network here takes the segmented human figures from the pedestrian detection and pose estimation datasets and tries to predict the pose of the input person. However, ClueNet has some limitations. First, ClueNet is a two-stage network where both the stages have to be trained individually and independently of each other. As a result of which, the features for the pedestrian figures are extracted again in the second stage and not reused from the first stage. And second, ClueNet fails to handle person-to-person occlusions. The model uses semantic segmentation, which although succeeds at segmenting people from the background, it fails to discern among two individual people. In this work, we aim to estimate the entire pose of the pedestrian irrespective of its complete visibility or partial occlusions. Our proposed approach mitigates the two major limitations of the previous work. First, our network is end-to-end trainable. And second, it works equally well in all types of occlusions, including person-to-person occlusions. Before we dive into the details of the proposed network, I will briefly go through a couple of deep learning concepts necessary to better understand our work. First is domain shift. Domain shift refers to the existence of a difference between two data distributions. This leads to unreliable predictions in the target domain from a model trained on the source domain. Given are images from two numerical datasets. One on the left are generated synthetically, while the ones on the right are from the street view house number dataset. Second is domain adaptation. It aims to minimize the shift in data distribution across domains such that the relevant information is transferred from the source domain to the target domain so as to predict the target domain labels correctly. The image below shows the high dimensional image features plotted on a 2D plane for the two datasets. On the left are the features from the datasets before domain adaptation, and on the right are the features after domain adaptation. However, in this work we use instance level domain adaptation. Domain adaptation aims to align the domains at the entire image level, whereas instance level domain adaptation aims to align the domain shift of particular instances from the entire image of the source image for the source domain to the target domain. Now that we have an idea about instance level domain adaptation, I will move on to the proposed approach. Some slides earlier, I mentioned about two major challenges associated with full body pose estimation of occluded pedestrians, of which the first one was that none of the existing pedestrian datasets included pose annotations. To tackle this, we use two datasets, a pose estimation and a pedestrian detection dataset. We transfer the knowledge of pose prediction from the pose estimation datasets to human instances from the pedestrian dataset using instance level domain adaptation. The two datasets we use are CityPersons for pedestrian detection and Microsoft Coco for pose estimation. We use bounding box and instance segmentation annotations for pedestrians from CityPerson dataset and bounding box, pose and instance segmentation annotations of persons from MS Coco dataset. The proposed network consists of two stages. The first stage aims to extract domain-specific features of the human figures, and the second stage performs domain-invariant pose estimation. An important point to note here is, even though our approach consists of two stages, the proposed model is a single network and is end-to-end trainable. The architecture of the proposed network is shown in this figure. In the first stage, we aim to extract domain-specific features of the human instances from both the datasets separately. We do so by extracting intermediate features representing the human figures from the person detection network. We use a faster RCNN based person detection network for this purpose. We use two separate detection networks for the two datasets, as the distribution of the two datasets may not be the same or even similar, which is usually the case in real-world scenarios. Using two separate networks allows training in a discrete manner and hence generates strong domain-specific features for both the datasets. The architecture of the first stage is highlighted in the given figure. It consists of two detector networks, one for each dataset. We show a zoomed in image of the selected portion for better clarity. We can see the intermediate features are extracted from the ROI align layer and are passed on to the second stage for further processing. The second stage takes in domain-specific features of both the datasets from the first stage and learns to estimate the pose of the human figures from the pedestrian dataset. The second stage consists of three modules: domain classification, instance segmentation, and pose estimation. We will go through each of them in the following slides. The domain classification network aims to classify the input human features to the dataset the human figure belongs to. It enforces the feature encoder of the second stage to generate dataset invariant features of the domain-specific human features extracted from the first stage. This is the part of the network which performs instance-level domain adaptation in an adversarial manner. The figure here shows the domain shift between MS COCO and the city percent dataset. The instance segmentation network generates segmentation maps for individual humans using domain invariant features from the second stage feature encoder network. This allows us to discern people overlapping in the image and hence tackle person-to-person occlusions. The image here shows the difference between semantic and instance segmentation. The pose estimation part of the network takes domain invariant features from the second stage's feature encoder and aims to generate the pose of the human figure in consideration. To tackle occlusion scenarios of any kind, including person-to-person occlusions, we multiply the generated instance segmentation map of the input features before using them as input to the pose estimation network. The architecture of the second stage of the proposed network is highlighted in this image. In the network, the part in the blue shows the common encoder that generates domain invariant features of the second stage. The part in cyan shows the domain classification network. The part in green shows the instance segmentation network, and finally the part in red shows the pose estimation network. The network is trained end-to-end using appropriate loss functions for domain classification, instance segmentation, pose estimation, and percent detection. The second challenge we discussed previously was that none of the existing pose estimation datasets included annotations for the occluded regions of the human figures. As a solution, we use mask and predict strategy that helps to learn to estimate the entire pose of the occluded pedestrians. Some instance segmentation results from our proposed framework for city percent datasets are shown in this image. The figure here shows some detection and pose estimation results from the proposed network for city percent dataset. The ground truth bounding boxes are shown in red, the predicted bounding boxes are shown in green, and the estimated pose is shown in blue. Table 1 shows a comparison of different models for pose estimation on MS COCO test set. We achieve a significant improvement in terms of AP for the same. This table shows the performance of the proposed approach to estimate key points in various occlusion scenarios on MS COCO test set. Table 3 shows a comparison of instance segmentation results in terms of AP on city persons validation set. Detection results in terms of miss rate for different visibility scenarios on city persons validation set have been shown in table 4. For more details, do check out our paper. Thank you.